Hello, everybody. Welcome into Fantasy Pros. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined as I am every Monday by Tera Roberts. We are talking 5 moves to make before Week 7. We're not halfway through the NFL season, Tera, but we're like borderline halfway through the fantasy regular season, which is pretty bonkers.
It's flying. It's flying so fast. It feels like it's just week 2, but we're flying in here. So yeah, let's go. Let's make some buys and sells here.
It gets late pretty early in fantasy football. When you are, 2-4, 1-5, hopefully not 0-6, it can get away from you pretty quickly here. So hopefully that's not the situation our listeners are in. But of course, sometimes bad luck strikes and you get hit with injuries or whatever the reason may be, and you are looking to make some moves here. Quick reminder for everybody that all of our weekly consensus rankings and tiers can be found at fantasypros.com/rankings. We've got some buys, we've got some sells, we've got a drop in here for you. Tara, start us off with a buy.
I'm going to start us off with buying Mike Evans here. We're going to buy on the injury here to try and play a little gamesmanship here because the Bucs receiving core is it's completely decimated. Emeka Egbuka going down was absolutely dreadful here. We are down to Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson, and Cameron Johnson here. And when we look at this, you could say, hey, let me go and make some waiver claims on these guys and see if something could pop here. Because we saw a couple of touchdowns between the Johnsons there. But none of them, I don't know, are really capable of carrying this offense. And Baker Mayfield is on fire, so he's going to have to throw to somebody in this little potential MVP season here. So we have to decide who we want to target here. Now, with Mike Evans being the person here who has the most likely chance of coming back sooner rather than later here, that's who we're going to buy in here. I know it might feel uncomfortable buying in on an injury, but we've got Emeka Egbuka who is getting his hamstring checked out on Tuesday. So as of the filming of this video, we don't know how bad it is, but generally speaking, when it comes to hamstring injuries, they're multiple weeks. We're seeing it here with Mike Evans. We got Chris Godwin, who has already technically been ruled out by Todd Bowles here, saying that both him and Bucky Irving are probably going to miss this week here. So if they've already ruled him out, we might be looking for an extended out here with Godwin. So it might be an opportunity for Mike Evans to come back and slide back in here and take control of this offense and this receiving core here. When we look back to Mike Evans' production in the early season, I know it was underwhelming here, but we have to consider that a lot of those were matchup driven. He had games against Atlanta where he faced AJ Terrell, game against Houston versus Derek Stingley, game against the Jets versus Sauce Gardner. He just had a very bad lineup early on that did favor Baker Mayfield targeting Emeka Egbuka here. So with the schedule getting a little bit more favorable for him, matchups coming in strong here, and the opportunity to be the wide receiver 1 with Baker Mayfield dealing here, we can take a chance here and buy in on the injury dip with Mike Evans.
What do you think, let's say a month from now, Evans and Egbuka and Godwin are all on the field again at the same time for the first time? What do you expect that usage to look like? Do you think it will be Evans stepping back into the alpha role and Egbuka is now like the strong number 2? Do you think Egbuka has done enough to be the number 1 and Evans is now kind of the aging number 2? If they're all healthy, what do you expect that distribution to look like?
I think the first big thing is that I think Chris Godwin is unfortunately the odd man out here. That feels like it. We've already seen him with Egbuka take a back seat there. And I think that more than likely Egbuka can be the one that kind of takes over here and is the wide receiver 1, but it should be closer as we get into matchups that aren't necessarily those aggressive shutdown matchups here. But yeah, I think Emeka is here to stay. So once he bounces back from this hamstring injury, if you're we're saying buy Mike Evans here, but if you're in a really good place here and want to take that chance on Egbuka, that's an option as well here. You want to buy into a piece of this offense here for the Bucs. And Mike Evans is the one with the more immediate usage, and then Emeka Egbuka is the one that probably has the little higher upside there over Evans.
Who's the next player that you are buying right now?
The buy here for me is it's Travis Etienne. I've talked about him before as a buy here, and it's a good opportunity here. His value is always lower than it should be. He is the clear RB1 here, but especially after 2 subpar games where he's been under 10 fantasy points, it is an excellent time to buy. I'm not shocked that he had a couple of down weeks here. These were matchups against a Kansas City defense that is extremely strong against the run. We just watched them hold David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, of all people, to both under 10 fantasy points. Seattle, who has been incredibly stout against the run, run all season. So these were games where all odds were for Etienne to, underperform, unfortunately, here. But when we look at the upcoming schedule here, there are better matchups ahead here. If these kind of performances were against teams like Miami or Dallas, I would be panicking and be concerned here. But again, we're looking at a guy who is the lead back here, and it's unquestioned at this point. I know that people love Bashal Tutin and the potential for him in this offense, and there was a lot of thought earlier that we got that Tank Bigsby trade and that Bashal Tutin would be the one that would take over, but snaps and carries and everything has been very clearly favoring Travis Etienne. Do I buy into the Jags offense as a whole in their big turnaround that they've had? Probably not entirely, but it is a fantastic system here. The Jags are holding it together very well. Trevor Lawrence is adapting, and for all of his struggles, the games are at least close here, and they are, trending in a positive direction here. So we're looking forward to good things here for Travis Etienne. He's a nice buy low candidate here with the underwhelming production.
Where is he rest of the season for you in your running back rankings?
He is top 15 for me. I still feel very confident in him.
Okay. If you want a chance to win the ultimate symbol of fantasy glory, the Fantasy Football Championship belt, courtesy of our good friends at Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football hardware, then this is your moment. This massive gold-plated belt is built to make a statement. It's bold, it's heavy, and it's guaranteed to turn heads in your league. Don't just win your championship, wear it. To enter, all you need to do is subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel right now. Drop a comment below on any of our videos. That is it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss your chance to claim this championship belt and flex on your entire league. Tera, give us your first sell.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be Jameson Williams that we're selling on. It was a good game, 6 receptions, 7 targets, 66 yards, a touchdown here, but it was a weird game. The Lions weren't exactly pushing high volume here. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 receptions, which is in line with what you expect from him, but it was only for 45 yards. This was an outlier game. Jameson's 7 targets were what we expect for him, but this was kind of a boom game for him. And again, we talked about this when we talked about the matchup there with Kansas City. It's just a bad matchup from a running perspective. This was an outlier performance, so it's no coincidence that we had Jameson go off in a game where it was a bad matchup here for Gibbs and Montgomery. So when we look ahead here and we look at their schedule, you got to kind of look ahead and kind of figure out here, when can we identify these potential boom games for Jameson Williams? Because I think they're very identifiable here. We've seen 2 boom games from him. One boom game was when it was an ideal matchup with Chicago, an aggressive volume game, and then this one here where it was just a bad matchup from a run perspective. So you're looking for either situations where there's going to be a running back group that is shut down, or it's going to be an extremely high volume matchup. And realistically, there are only 3 matchups on the schedule for the remaining 10 games. They're going to kind of shape out in that scenario here. The floor is nasty for Jameson Williams, unfortunately. It's literally like a single fantasy point there with 1 reception. We've seen it in a game here. He's a boom bust receiver there, and if you can identify the games, that's not good, because unfortunately there are a whole bunch that we're not going to really have usable production out of him. Take this opportunity to sell high and hope that people forget the minuscule fantasy performances that we have had over the past several weeks here.
I always like to point out when we're talking about these boom bust receivers also that sometimes the booms aren't even that high. Like his best big games are 108 yards and a touchdown and 66 yards and a touchdown. That's not like a league-winning week. They were both, well, for this week, he's currently a wide receiver 1. There are still 2 more games to play, so that's subject to change. The other week, back in week 2, this big 108 yards and a touchdown game, he was wide receiver 10. That's in half PPR scoring. So it's not like his boom weeks have even been like, oh, this is a top 2 performance on the week, and he single-handedly won you the week because he got you 30 points. It was 17.8 fantasy points and 15.6 fantasy points. And again, that's half PPR scoring because he doesn't catch that many passes. So, I mean, last night aside. So even when the boom is not a league-winning week, and then you also have to deal with the bust factor, like, I'm totally with you on he is the exact type of player where if I can't make a trade this time, I'm going to be looking to trade him the next time he has a boom-ish week. And I'll be like, okay, this is the week. Go sell him now coming off this high and see if anybody's buying it to being long-term. So I'm right there with you on Jameson Williams. I'm sadder to see this next name on your list. Who else are you selling?
Don't be sad. Because I mean, it was a great game here. We are selling Kimani Vidal, and it's not him. It's not him at all. The performance was incredible. And I know why you're sad. It's 18 attempts, 124 yards, dominated receiving work, got the touchdown. It was amazing. You're probably sad, probably for the same reason I am, because he was a late round rookie darling there last year. We were hoping that he was going to ascend at the time when we were looking at the Chargers offense, and we weren't really sure what that backfield was going to look like. And a lot of us thought, hey, it could be Kimani Vidal. Like, he could be the Isaiah Pacheco. So there's a lot of people that are very partial to him. I drafted him in a dynasty rookie draft, and I had given up hope when they drafted Amari Hampton that this would ever be a thing here. So it's awesome, but we have zero reason to trust the Chargers here, unfortunately. There have been reports that the Chargers are in the market for a running back, quote unquote, either a lead back or a depth piece. We know that there are lots of available potential running backs on bad teams, potentially available. Even if they say they're not available, they're probably available there on the market. There's no guarantee that Vidal is a lead back moving forward, unfortunately. And then even when you look at the Chargers, they told us, through reports, right, through the grapevine, that Haskins was going to get the start, but it was definitely Kimani's backfield there. The first Chargers play was a run by Vidal. So he dominated in snaps. It wasn't a hot hand situation. He looked fantastic. They did exactly opposite of what the reports were. So I'm not saying that he won't have high upside. If he remains the lead back, I do have very high hopes for him, because the Chargers offense is really good. And despite the offensive line issues, the lead back does put up numbers. Like, they've been struggling, dealing with massive injuries, but Amari Hampton was putting up numbers. So to see Kimani Vidal come around and put up those same numbers, you're like, okay, cool, this is our dude. But fortunately, at this point, can we really trust him? We just watched the Cardinals flip-flop their backfield last week. There's no loyalty to these guys off of practice squad, unfortunately. So if you need him, you're hoping and you got to have this, okay, hold on to him, start him, and ride it as long as you can. But if you have the opportunity to sell him off to a running back needy team, you might want to do that.
The other thing, too, in terms of making the case to sell Vidal, is that it was Miami, which is such an enticing matchup on the ground. They're an enticing matchup in multiple ways, but on the ground, they're might be the worst run defense in football. So not only is there the question mark of, are they going to add another running back? When will Hampton return? Will Haskins get more run? There's all these different, moving variables for Vidal's usage, let alone the fact that this was this amazing matchup. He rightfully took advantage. This is what you should have looked like against a matchup like this if you're a good player. So it's great shots to him. He looked awesome, but I think, the Miami defense makes a lot of running backs look awesome.
Yes.
It makes me wonder what Hampton would have looked like if he had been healthy for this game, and what kind of beastly performance we missed out on. Right. So
your Rico Dowdle game there.
yeah, pretty much could have been. I do want to let everybody know about Chalkboard. You can cash in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite player stats to win up to 5,000 times your money. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect lineup with alternate lines or debating whether to take the money and cash out, Chalkboard is the premier destination to win big all season long. Download today and get a 100% deposit match and free pick. Get off the bench and on the board, Chalkboard. All right, Tara, we've got one more player. You are dropping. Who is it?
I hate to do the drops. I hate declaring the drops. No one ever likes them. Sometimes it's, a blessing. You scare the player into popping off. But unfortunately, I don't think it's happening here. We're dropping Jakobi Meyers here. 3 straight games of 7 fantasy points, 0 touchdowns on the year. 4 straight weeks under 10 fantasy points, and an offense where Geno Smith looks legitimately awful. He reverted to another time, unfortunately. And you can't even have hope for transitioning to another quarterback. Your backup option there is Kenny Pickett. It's a concerning situation here. This might just be the new reality for Jakobi Meyers. I'm not sure that it's him. I think it might just be a weird unalignment, unfortunately, with Geno Smith there, because Trey Tucker was looking like he is the wide receiver 1 of this offense. And the biggest concern here is that we have had 2 straight games with no Brock Bowers. And theoretically, when you look at the alignment and the way that Bowers plays and Jakobi Meyers plays, this should have been an uptick in volume for Jakobi Meyers. So we have Bowers exit, and we have zero increase in production, unfortunately, from Meyers. So this was kind of the test here. I was willing to hold on and see, hey, what does this look like when Bowers is out? Can we get a turnaround here? Unfortunately, we didn't. So, I mean, you can compare it to a situation like we were talking about with Jameson Williams, where at least Jameson Williams offers you a little bit of something. It's a low ceiling. It's not anything fancy, but it can get you something. We have zero evidence at this point outside of week 1 that Jakobi Meyers can get us anything at this point. The offense is bad. The ceiling doesn't exist. It might just be time to move on.
In the consensus rest of season rankings, Meyers is still about 20 spots ahead of Tucker. Would you go against that? Would you trade Meyers straight up for Tucker?
I would, and I understand why it's been, because I too have been tilting a little bit in the rankings, trying to keep him up there slightly, because you're like, okay, it's not, the floor is kind of there. Like, we saw good in week 1 here, so I've been hesitant to drop him down as well, but I think that we all, myself included, are probably overranking him at this point. On a weekly basis, he should have been ranked significantly lower than where he had him at, and the rest of season, it needs to be lower too.
We'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Those were 5 moves to make before week 7 for Tera. I'm Ryan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time.